Buzzfeed, one of the latest media companies to announce layoffs. The digital media company is cutting 15% of its staff and closing. The Pulitzer Prize-winning Buzzfeed News CEO Jonah Peretti said in a memo acquired by Yahoo Finance, quote, "We faced more challenges than I can count in the past few years. A pandemic, a fading SPAC market that yielded less capital, a tech recession, a tough economy, a declining stock market, a decelerating digital advertising market, and ongoing audience and platform shifts." That's just a few. Joining us now is Elahe Izadi, Washington Post media reporter. Nice to see you. So among those many aspects that contributed today, what do you think really was the deciding factor that brought down BuzzFeed News?
Well, it's unclear at this moment, like what exactly triggered this, where we're now seeing about 180 employees being laid off, because it's just not BuzzFeed News that's shutting down, it's reductions in other parts of the business. But what we can look at is back in December 2021, BuzzFeed went public, and the deal was initially valued at $1.2 billion. And a year later, the company was valued at about a third of that. So we saw, this bigger wave of in the tech industry, where we look at within tech, the media subset of it, right? The media online digital industry. In the early aughts, 2010s, it was a boom time. You had a lot of investors putting in a lot of money into these companies with the promise that this was the future of media, this was the future of journalism. And a lot of those companies have suffered rounds of layoffs, huge cutbacks, especially right now. As was said in that memo, we're having sort of a recession in the tech industry, but more importantly, I would think for the media journalism industry, a huge cutback in ad revenue. And this is really hurting the bottom line of a lot of media companies. It's not just BuzzFeed. I mean, you saw CNN lay off hundreds of people, the Washington Post, even my employer laid off people. So we're seeing this happening across the media industry, but really BuzzFeed News went through several rounds of layoffs before we got to today.
Well, then given the wide amount of cuts that we have seen already within the media industry, and given the fact of what you've been talking about, kind of this broader industry-wide shift, should we expect more cuts then in the media industry going forward here, at least in the short term?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see more. Another media company I might point everyone's attention to is Gannett. They are one of the largest newspaper owners in the country. They own hundreds of regional and local newspapers, and their workforce has been utterly reduced, huge cutbacks. This is the parent company of USA Today and many newspapers all around the country. And so I'm not expecting a slowdown in this per se. It really depends on the wins, the economic wins. But when advertising revenue bottoms out, this is one of the impacts. And the other thing I would say about BuzzFeed and maybe some of these other digital media outlets is a lot of them don't have paywalls. They offer their journalism for free. So they're more susceptible to declines in the ad revenue market. Some other newspapers, or newspaper industry, they're really looking at subscriptions and whether a paywall and having a more aggressive paywall is helpful. But when we look at the digital media industry, one of the problems is even if you offer a paid or subscription model, oftentimes the amount of that digital subscription that you're getting per subscriber does not account for the loss in the print subscriber. Print subscriptions cost a lot more. And so we're kind of in this weird in-between moment in the media industry right now as a result.
Yes, CNN, massive layoffs recently. ESPN apparently undergoing a steep round of cuts this week. Are there any winners in this environment that you just described?
Well, I don't know about the shareholders and how well they're doing. There was a report that cuts before in the news industry, the news division of BuzzFeed equated to, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars for the company. I'm not sure about winners right now. There are many employees who have lost their job. And really what I like to pay attention to are the news consumers. Our democracy really relies upon a robust press being able to operate, that it's not just, down to a few media conglomerates with even more decimated staff. Because the reality is if you don't have reporters who are paid appropriately, looking into and playing that watchdog role, I really worry about what that means for our country and the democracy writ large.
Do you think AI plays a role? Because Jonah, yes, he did reference AI, saying that AI is not going to replace any of these jobs, but they are committed to AI. And this is something that we know is going to disrupt not only media, but clearly almost every single industry out there.
Yeah, the AI question is the big one right now, right? How much will AI take jobs from journalists even? I think we've already seen early indications of that, of the introduction of AI does not eliminate the need for human beings to be involved. We saw a tech website employ AI as a way of writing articles, and then they had to go through and fact check and retract a lot of them. But perhaps another way of thinking of the AI question here is there are already tools that newsrooms are utilizing that have AI. One is transcription services, for instance. It used to be that you would record an interview and you would have to go through and manually transcribe. And now we do have AI to assist us, but a human still has to go through and verify it. And I think in journalism specifically, I'm thinking not just content creation, but journalism, where you need to ensure that your facts are correct. What we've seen so far from AI, specifically ChatGPT, is it's prone to make errors and it's not always factually accurate. So I don't see the need to eliminate humans in the near future. And if you get rid of them, you might end up with a lot more problems.
Indeed. Let's commit to that. Elahe Izadi, we hope you are right. Great job. Washington Post. Appreciate that.